What if I told you he does want you, but he's not going to admit it until you stop trying to prove your worth and start living like you already know it? The moment you stop chasing, stop overgiving, and start showing up with quiet confidence, everything shifts. He begins to feel your absence, not your pressure. He starts to wonder, not withdraw. And that's when the truth surfaces, not because you pulled it out of him, but because he chose to step forward. Want him to finally admit it? Then do this first. So many women ask themselves, if he wants me, why won't he just say it? And the answer isn't always about confusion or disinterest. It's often about emotional safety. You have to understand something fundamental about the emotional wiring of many men. Vulnerability doesn't come easily. From a young age, many men are conditioned, directly or subtly, to equate emotional expression with weakness. They're taught to pursue, to conquer, to maintain control. Vulnerability, on the other hand, requires surrender. It demands emotional risk. And for a lot of men, that's terrifying. So what happens when a man starts to fall for a woman? When he starts to care, when he starts thinking about her constantly, when his chest tightens every time he sees her laugh or hears her voice? He suddenly finds himself walking into emotional territory that feels deeply unfamiliar and potentially unsafe. His heart may know it wants her, but his mind tells him to tread carefully, because if he opens up and it goes wrong, he's exposed. So he waits, he holds back, he might flirt but stay vague, he might text often but never call it dating, he might be physically close but emotionally distant, and it leaves you confused, wondering why he won't just be honest. But here's the key: a man will often not admit he wants you until he feels it's safe to do so, not just in the sense of she likes me, but she won't shame me, control me, or abandon me if I show her my feelings. And this is where your role becomes powerful, not in chasing or convincing, but in creating a space where he can breathe emotionally. That doesn't mean you have to walk on eggshells or be endlessly patient. It means you lead with your own emotional intelligence. You show him that you're not here to play games. You show him that emotional honesty is not only welcome, but attractive. You create an energy of calm self-worth. This doesn't look like over-explaining your feelings, hoping he'll mirror them. It doesn't look like asking, "What are we?" over and over. It looks like being grounded, present, playful without pressure. It looks like having high standards and also emotional softness. You're not trying to earn his love. You're allowing space for it to unfold naturally while also not investing too deeply too soon. That kind of energy tells him, you're free to be honest here. You won't be judged, controlled, or rushed. And make no mistake, men can sense this emotional environment even when you're not saying a word. Your vibe communicates everything. If you show up needy or anxious, it doesn't feel safe. It feels like pressure. And that pressure tells him that opening up might lead to emotional entrapment. But if you're relaxed, owning your presence, enjoying the moment for what it is, that tells him, here is a woman who won't punish me for showing up emotionally. Here is someone who won't make my feelings about her. Many men are more intuitive than we give them credit for. They notice how you respond when they pull away. They notice how you behave when things are ambiguous. They're constantly testing, even if they don't realize it consciously. And one of the biggest silent questions they're asking is, will I still feel like myself in this relationship? Or will I be expected to meet her emotional needs before I'm even sure of my own? If a man suspects that emotional openness will cost him his sense of control or that it will lead to conflict or pressure, he will delay admitting his feelings no matter how strong they are. This is why your sense of self matters so much. When you have your own passions, your own rhythm, and you're not orbiting around his emotional clarity, you create gravity. You create intrigue. You create a sense that being with you isn't about taking care of someone else's emotional needs. It's about mutual growth, mutual fun, mutual depth. And suddenly it feels good for him to be real with you. He starts associating vulnerability with relief instead of risk. And that is a complete game changer. Think about it this way. Imagine emotional connection like a dance. A man who's scared to be vulnerable won't take the first step unless he sees rhythm in you. He needs to sense that you're not waiting in the corner watching him. You're already dancing, already living, already lit up by your own energy. That's when he steps in. That's when he moves toward you. Not because you demanded it, but because your presence made it feel possible. One of the most powerful things a woman can do is offer emotional safety without sacrificing self-respect. That looks like being curious without interrogating. It looks like holding space without waiting in limbo. It looks like noticing when he leans in and rewarding that moment with your warmth, and also noticing when he pulls back and choosing not to chase. That balance of openness and discernment is magnetic. It teaches a man, you can be real with me, but I'm not going to abandon myself waiting for you to be ready. You're not his therapist. You're not his savior. You're not there to fix his emotional hesitations, but you are a mirror. You show him what it looks like to be emotionally mature, grounded, and available without desperation. You don't have to convince him to want you. You just have to create the kind of emotional environment where wanting you feels safe and good. So when he sees that you're not playing games, that you don't need him to fill your emotional gaps, that you enjoy his company but don't cling to it, suddenly the walls come down. He no longer sees vulnerability as a risk. He sees it as a bridge. And he realizes that if he wants to keep you, he's going to have to cross it. Because he finally sees you're not just the woman he wants, you're the one he can finally be real with. When it comes to attraction, there's a subtle but powerful shift that happens when a woman carries herself with quiet confidence, especially the kind that doesn't require external validation to feel secure. Many women make the mistake of thinking that if they just express interest more clearly, if they just communicate openly enough, then the guy will respond in kind. But attraction doesn't work like a transaction. It's not about stating facts. It's about creating a feeling. And the feeling that changes everything for a man is this: she's into me, but she doesn't need me to complete her. That's the spark that makes him sit up, pay attention, and start thinking about you more than he realizes. Confidence without pressure is magnetic because it gives a man something he rarely experiences in dating: freedom. The freedom to feel drawn in without being pushed. The freedom to explore his own feelings at his own pace. And the freedom to realize on his own that he wants you, not because you chased him, but because your energy stood out. When a woman walks into a connection with the mindset of, I am already whole and I enjoy your company, but I won't sacrifice my peace to force something, she's instantly in a different league. She's no longer asking, do you like me? She's asking, do we align? And that shift completely changes the dynamic. So often women get stuck in overgiving mode. They overinvest early, trying to prove their girl free. End material. They're always available, always responding instantly, always initiating the next conversation or planning the next date. But what they don't realize is that this can create a subtle pressure for the man. He begins to feel like he's being evaluated or recruited for a role he hasn't even applied for yet. And even if he likes you, that energy can create resistance. Now contrast that with the woman who engages from a place of self-trust. She shows up fully in the moment, she flirts with ease, she listens deeply. But she doesn't push. She doesn't ask, where is this going? 2 weeks in. She doesn't give him more than he's giving her. She mirrors his effort and still maintains her rhythm, her life, and her peace. That kind of woman is rare. And men notice that immediately. She becomes someone he thinks about when she's not around. He starts to wonder, what is it about her that feels so good? It's the absence of emotional weight. It's the absence of pressure. It's the presence of lightness with depth. What makes this energy so powerful is that it awakens the part of a man that wants to pursue, not because he's playing some alpha role, but because he feels like he's being invited, not chased. You're not laying out the entire map for him. You're showing him a glimpse of the treasure and letting him decide if he's willing to go on the adventure. And here's the truth. If a man feels like he's the one discovering his feelings for you, he'll value them more. If he feels like he's being told how he should feel, he'll resist, even if he actually does like you. Your energy is always leading the interaction, whether you realize it or not. If you're calm, centered, and emotionally generous without being emotionally dependent, you're setting the tone. If you're anxious, over-available, and needing constant reassurance, you're also setting the tone, but in a way that makes him feel he's being cornered. And that's not attractive. Men may not articulate this clearly, but they feel it. They feel when a woman is choosing them out of joy versus choosing them out of fear of being alone. They feel the difference between someone who wants a relationship and someone who needs one. When you enter a connection and carry yourself like you're the prize, not with arrogance, but with self-knowing, you're giving a man a reason to rise. He starts to see that having you in his life would elevate his experience. He realizes that being with you feels like peace, like fun, like something worth nurturing. And suddenly, he's no longer wondering if he should make a move. He's afraid of missing his chance. This is why the small things you do matter. It's in how you respond when he texts. It's in the way you don't rearrange your whole schedule for a last-minute invite. It's in how you show affection when he's earned it, not just because you're craving attention. It's in how you pull back a little when you notice he's becoming passive, not to manipulate him, but to protect your own energy. That level of self-awareness is what draws emotionally intelligent men toward you. There's something incredibly sexy about a woman who can be fully present and open without attaching her worth to the outcome. She's able to flirt, to laugh, to connect deeply, but she doesn't lose herself in the process. She keeps one foot in her world. She still protects her peace. That kind of woman sends a clear signal. I'm not here to convince you of anything. I'm here to experience this. And if it grows, beautiful. If it doesn't, I won't shrink to make it happen. It's important to understand that confidence isn't loud. It doesn't have to be about big declarations or bold moves. Sometimes confidence is as quiet as holding your boundary when he tests it. It's choosing not to double text when he goes quiet. It's staying gracious and kind even when you're disappointed. It's not about controlling the outcome, it's about can't. Owing that you'll be fine either way. That quiet confidence is intoxicating to the right kind of man because it tells him, this woman values herself. If I want to be part of her life, I need to bring my best. Confidence without pressure is about giving him room to step into his masculine energy while you remain firmly rooted in your feminine strength. You're not waiting on him, you're observing him. You're not initiating everything. You're allowing space for his initiative to emerge. And when it does, you respond with warmth, encouragement, and your unique spark. That's the dance. That's how mutual attraction builds. In the end, you want a relationship that feels aligned, not forced. And the way to get there is by starting with how you show up. When you lead with relaxed confidence, you change the emotional climate. You create a space where a man can be vulnerable, take initiative, and show his desire freely. Because he doesn't feel like he's being cornered into it. He feels like he wants to do it. Because being around you doesn't feel like pressure. It feels like possibility. When a man is interested in you but hasn't admitted it yet, it's often because he hasn't felt the pull strong enough to override his internal resistance. He may not even fully understand what's holding him back. Sometimes it's fear of rejection, fear of vulnerability, or simply the comfort of staying in control emotionally. But there's something that can shift the dynamic completely, and it's not about confessing your feelings or asking for clarity. It's about showing rather than chasing. It's about stepping fully into your life in a way that invites him to lean in. Not because you asked him to, but because the absence of your pursuit created emotional space. And that space is where desire grows. The truth is, many men thrive when they feel like they're the ones doing the choosing. Not because they don't want to be chosen in return, but because they want to feel agency in the connection. They want to feel they earned your time, your affection, your presence. That's where their pride, their romantic drive, and their masculine energy come alive. But the challenge arises when a woman starts doing all the heavy lifting, initiating all the conversations, making all the plans, emotionally leading the connection. She's showing interest, but in doing so, she's also removing the challenge. She's giving him the reward before he's had to work for it. And that short-circuits the natural rhythm of attraction. When you instead choose to show interest but not chase him, everything changes. You become the woman who's clearly open, receptive, and warm, but who also isn't handing over her emotional energy without reciprocity. You're not cold, you're not playing games, and you're not pretending to be indifferent. You're just letting him come to you at his own pace. You're not chasing validation. You're not trying to speed up intimacy. You're letting your life speak for itself, and that's incredibly powerful. Think of it like this. You are a fire. A man will come closer when he feels the warmth, not when you throw yourself at him to prove you're burning. Your energy, your radiance, your passions, they should already be alive with or without his participation. When he sees that, it naturally stirs something in him. He begins to ask, what's going on in her world that's lighting her up like that? You stop becoming a puzzle to solve and start becoming a presence he wants more of. That's the difference between chasing and showing. One is about control, the other is about magnetism. So how do you show instead of chase? It begins with being clear in your boundaries and consistent in your actions. If he sends a thoughtful message, you respond with warmth and appreciation. If he makes plans and follows through, you show up with your best energy. But when he's passive or inconsistent, you don't fill the gap. You don't chase clarity. You simply step back a and focus on your own life. That withdrawal isn't punishment, it's information. It tells him, when you bring effort, I meet you. When you don't, I won't carry this alone. And here's what happens in that space. He begins to feel the absence of your energy. And if he truly wants you, that absence won't sit comfortably with him. He'll start to wonder why you're not chasing. He'll reflect on the dynamic. And he'll begin to realize something that many men only realize in moments of emotional silence. I miss her. That's the shift. That's the moment he begins to take ownership of his desire instead of waiting for you to keep the connection alive. Now let's talk about your role in this, because showing without chasing requires self-trust. It means you trust that your presence alone is enough to inspire action, that you don't have to perform, overextend, or prove anything, that your standards are not threats, they are invitations. You're saying, this is what it looks like to be with someone emotionally mature. I will show up for you, but I won't beg for your attention. I will enjoy you, but I won't lose myself to keep you. This energy becomes even more powerful when paired with joyful detachment. You're not sitting around waiting for him to step up. You're out living, laughing, connecting, creating. You're building a life that feels rich, whether he joins you or not. And this is where many women hesitate. They think, if I pull back, I might lose him. But here's the reality. If your pulling back causes him to disappear, he was never emotionally invested to begin with. But if he senses your absence and starts leaning in, initiating conversations, seeking time with you, showing emotional depth, then you've created the space for real attraction to grow. And it's rooted in his choice, not your effort. Men fall deeper for women they feel they had to step up for, not because of ego, but because of value alignment. When he sees that you have a beautiful life that's already working, and you've given him the opportunity to be part of it without me, aching him your whole world, he respects you more. He sees you as high value, not because you act aloof, but because your focus is bigger than any one person. You're in your purpose. You're connected to your joy. You're selective, not desperate. When you show, not chase, you also avoid one of the most dangerous traps in dating, over-functioning. This is when a woman does too much too soon, texting constantly, validating endlessly, making the relationship easy for a man who's giving very little in return. And what happens? He enjoys the attention, but he doesn't feel inspired to reciprocate. There's no hunger, no pursuit, no growth. And eventually he may even feel smothered or disinterested. But when you hold back just enough to give him the opportunity to step forward on his own, the entire tone changes. He feels empowered to choose. And when he chooses you, it's real. One of the most attractive things a woman can do is let a man miss her. Let him feel what it's like when her energy is not constantly available. Let him notice the void when her warmth is not freely pouring in every day. Because in that silence, his mind gets louder, his thoughts become more focused, and if there's real potential, he won't be able to stop thinking about you. That's when he starts to reflect. That's when he starts to take action. That's when he stops pretending and finally admits the truth, because you didn't force it. You created space for it. In this dynamic, you're not being passive, you're being intentional, you're responding to effort, not initiating in its absence. You're holding your standards without apology, and you're allowing the right man to earn a place in your life, not because you're playing hard to get, but because you know your value and you lead from it. And when a man truly wants you, he doesn't need to be convinced, he just needs a reason to believe that showing his feelings is worth the risk. And the woman who shows without chasing is often the one who gives him that reason